How ethical are the judicial sentences imposed upon internet hackers in the United States? Scientology, a religion that offers a precise path leading to a complete and certain understanding of one's true spiritual nature and one's relationship to self, family, groups, mankind, all life forms, the material universe, and the Supreme Being. Protests against this organization are popping up all over the world. Scientology has been recognized as a cult, not just a religion. In 2009, France made the first conviction against the organization as a whole. Individuals have been convicted separately, but never the entire organization. The group Anonymous does not want Scientology on the internet. They stand outside the Scientology buildings chanting and holding signs. They also try and hack Scientology websites, trying to shut down the organization. The documentary We Are Legion shows multiple perspectives of hacking, such as the hackers, the family members of these hackers, and the social media users. The family members of these hackers are worried about the penalties that they will receive, which are almost double those of a pedophile. The family members, along with the hackers, do not know the severity of the crimes they are committing, and as they see their children, siblings, grandchildren, or even parents go to jail, there is fear in their eyes. On November 15, 2013, Ed Pillington, the chief reporter of The Guardian US, wrote an article about a man named Jeremy Hammond. He was an anonymous hacktivist who released millions of emails relating to the private intelligence firm Stratfor. Hammond was sentenced a maximum of 10 years in jail and 3 years of supervised release. Hammond mentions that while he is in jail, he plans to clear his mind and focus more on important things. He says that he doubts he will ever go back to hacking. Many hackers already plan on never hacking again once they are released from jail. Some may realize that now they are being watched closer than they were before. Holding them in a jail cell for excessive amounts of time takes up jail cell space for more severe criminals like pedophiles. Pedophiles are not always convicted at first. They can be put on trial 2 or 3 times before they are actually penalized. Pedophiles, once charged, only receive an average of about 5 years in jail. Hackers tend to receive their charge right away. Pedophiles commit more severe crimes than internet hackers and still get less time than them. How ethical are the sentences provided to these hackers in the U.S.? Punishments given to hackers clearly violate ethical standards when compared to other, more heinous crimes. Guidelines for sentencing at both the state and federal level should be revised to reflect the gravity of the crime. The amount of time a hacker will spend in jail is anywhere from 6 months to 20 years. Punishment and jail time for hackers in the U.S. are unethical because they are placed in jail cells for extraneous amounts of time. Hacking is done with a computer, and without their computers, hackers will not be able to hack. Sentencing them for 20 years in jail is not the only solution to stopping the hacking. Christopher Reinhart, a chief attorney of the United States, wrote a report on computer crime in the U.S. In his report, he states that hackers will spend up to 20 years in jail, a fine up to $15,000, or both when they commit a first-degree computer crime. If the damage to or the value of the property or computer is over $10,000, then it is considered a first-degree computer crime. The least severe penalty is a fifth-degree computer crime. The hacker will receive up to 6 months in jail, a fine up to $1,000, or both. This will be charged to them if the damage to or the value of the property or computer services is, if any, is $500 or less. Jail sentencing and fines are not the only punishments hackers should receive. The sentencing should be reviewed and modified. They could have community service opportunities after they get out of jail. They could be supervised, which would limit the amount of supervision needed at home. But if jail time and fines are the only forms of punishment given to them, it shouldn't be as severe. Lauren Baldwin, a New Mexico attorney of 20 years and contributing author to the Criminal Defense Lawyer, wrote an article about sexual battery and the laws and penalties of this crime. She states that pedophiles' range of time spent in jail is anywhere from 1 year to 70 years, but the majority only stay in for 5 years. The range of years they can be sentenced to compared to how long they are actually in jail is almost not fair. Another chief attorney to the United States wrote a research report on sex offenders and their prosecution and their sentences. Sandra Norman-Levy provides statistical evidence on how many pedophiles were charged with first-degree sexual assault in 2007. 212 out of 14,850 pedophiles were charged. They were sentenced with 5 to 10 years in prison. Only 7 of these pedophiles were charged first-degree sexual assault, and they only received 55 more years. They aren't charged with that much. They aren't charged with that much, but when pedophiles are released from jail, they are placed on a sex offender list. While you are on this list, you may have to check in with law enforcement every 3 months to a year. When a pedophile is placed on this list, it takes away from them having a normal, everyday life. It can make it harder for them to find a job when they are placed on this list. They also may have many restrictions. Pedophiles have to live so many miles from school, and they are not allowed to be in contact with children. The laws for sex offenders do vary between the states, however. In Florida, Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, Missouri, California, and 6 more states, sex offenders are registered for life. Even though these laws may vary due to different states in which these pedophiles are living in, it is still evident that there is a planned-out process that these criminals will go through when they are released. Their jail time is less extensive than that of an internet hacker, but the control the government has over the pedophiles is more severe once they have been released. Hackers receive almost double the amount of jail time pedophiles receive. Once released, pedophiles are placed on a sex offender list which follows them everywhere. If the guidelines for sentencing computer criminals were restricted, then there could be a registered hackers list. This could help hackers realize that one simple click could affect their entire life. If the U.S. is so strict with life of a pedophile out of jail, but not as strict on their jail time, then why isn't it the same for hackers? Pedophiles cannot commit their crimes in jail, but when they are released, they can, which is why it is important to have them placed on a sex offenders list. But hackers cannot commit their crimes in jail as well. Hackers are in jail for much longer, and then once they're released, they're supervised and then on their own. It is easy to say that the amount of time a hacker spends in jail is more than that of a pedophile, and once released from jail, the hacker's life goes back to normal after a while, whereas a pedophile is placed on a list that prevents them from doing many things, like mentioned before. But when the two are looked at side by side, one could argue that jail time is not the only solution to keeping hackers from hacking. The court system goes to extreme measures to make sure that a pedophile does not commit the same crime. The sex offender list is just one example of how much effort the court system puts in. The court system should do the same for hackers. Providing hackers with less jail time would help to save jail space and money. From there, you could place every single hacker that has ever committed a crime on a registered hackers list. This will help computer companies know who's a hacker, and they could have the option of not selling them a computer. Hackers could also be restricted as to what programs and softwares they are able to download. Hackers will still be supervised once they are released, but this supervision time would be decreased because they are being restricted by possibly not having access to a computer anymore. The skills that internet hackers have are needed in some software occupations and in the government. Other countries have hackers working for them. If we give hackers an opportunity to put their skills to good use, then maybe more hackers will stop hacking for bad and will join the government and try to benefit the United States instead of turning against their country. If they use this time for community service work in a computer field, then the supervision times would decrease even more because they are already being watched 8 to 9 hours a day by their boss and security guards. In those types of facilities, there are tons of police and security men, so there's always a set of eyes watching over them.